The world of investing can be overwhelming and complicated at times. As a result, many don't get started and never take advantage of great wealth-building opportunities. But in the little book of Common Sense Investing, John Bogle, the founder of Vanguard, shows us that building wealth is actually quite simple, and anyone can do it. So if you're ready to dive into this book, let's get started. Idea number 1. How wealth is created in the stock market. We all hear how people get rich in the stock market. But what does that even mean? How does one get rich in the stock market? Well, it all comes down to what is called equity. Broadly speaking, equity simply means the ownership of value of an asset. In the stock market, these equities are represented by shares of stock, which are small pieces of ownership in a company. When someone buys a stock, what they're really doing is buying a small portion of that company, and as the company grows, so does their wealth. There are 3 ways to earn money with equities: earnings growth, dividends, and speculation. The level of profits a company has is a big influence on the price of the stock. If a company consistently reports an increase in profits, it is likely that their stock price will go up as well. In many cases, this might not be easy to see in the short term since stocks are quite volatile in the short term. But over a long period of time, a company that continuously increases their earnings will increase their share price, which increases the wealth of those who own the stock. In many cases, a company might choose to share these profits with their shareholders and send everyone who owns a stock in the company a check for the portion of the company's earnings. Dividends are a great part of any portfolio since it creates free cash flow and it allows for additional growth of the portfolio if these dividends are reinvested. Many choose to take advantage of the price fluctuations of the market to make a quick profit. The most sophisticated traders have complex models and access to information that most people don't have. This is a risky move for most investors. Bogle found that one of the best ways to create wealth is by investing in a variety of assets at the same time, instead of trying to choose individual stocks one by one. There are 2 major ways someone can do this: mutual funds and index funds. Number 2. Mutual funds versus index funds. Both index funds and mutual funds are quite similar to each other. They both allow the investor to purchase many stocks and investments with a single transaction. But there are also major differences that you should be aware of. An index fund is an investment portfolio that typically tracks a large section of the market, like the Standard & Poor's 500, S&P 500 for short, which tracks the 500 biggest publicly traded companies in the US, or a total market index, which tracks the entirety of the stock market. This allows investors to avoid doing too much technical analysis to choose companies individually, which is quite difficult. Picking individual stocks is like trying to find the needle in a haystack. Buying an index fund is like owning the whole haystack. For that reason, index funds tend to be passively managed. Since the fund owns a whole sector of the market, there's no need for fund managers to actively trade inside the fund. On the other hand, mutual funds are actively managed portfolios that also invest in a variety of different stocks, but typically not as many as index funds. Mutual funds tend to have managers picking, analyzing, and trading stocks inside of the fund in an attempt to increase the performance of the fund. One of the biggest distinctions between an index fund and a mutual fund is that index funds grow with the market, and mutual funds try to beat it. Bogle says that owning a whole sector of the market or the entirety of the market and just holding indefinitely might be a better option. And this is why. Number 3. Fees matter. Imagine you worked really hard and was able to save and invest $100,000. In 25 years, your money would compound and you would have $430,000. And this is accounting for a moderate 6% market return. Not too bad for not doing any extra work. But let's say that you invested in a mutual fund with a 2% management fee. You say 2%, not bad. But by the end of the 25 years, instead of $430,000, you end up with $260,000. That's right, that 2% fee paid every year would wipe out nearly 40% of the final value of your portfolio. Just as your investments compound over time, fees also compound over time and have the potential to destroy your portfolio's long-term value. Bogle says that the average mutual fund has an expense ratio of 1.3%. This means that if a fund has $100 million under management, $1.3 million are used for operating expenses, like paying managers, employees, and buildings. This leaves $98.7 million to actually invest. The fees are charged every year regardless of whether the fund actually made a profit or not. On the other hand, the average index fund has an expense ratio of 0.1%, although many great indexes have an expense ratio of 0.04%, meaning that for every $100 million under management, only $40,000 go into operating expenses, and the rest of the $99,960,000 go to the actual investments. But there's another evil that can destroy your wealth if not addressed. Number 4. How taxes affect your wealth. Portfolio management fees can go up to 2% yearly, but taxes can go up to the 37% margin. This is one of the reasons why wealthy people put a lot of effort into avoiding paying taxes. By stopping fees and taxes from interfering too much with their compounding growth, their money can flourish and create great wealth. The problem with the average mutual fund is that since they are actively managed, stocks in these portfolios are typically bought and sold quite quickly, in many cases within a year. This is a problem because any asset that is bought or sold within a year is taxed at regular income, which marginally goes up to 37% for federal taxes alone, depending on the individual's income. As most of us know, taxes are paid when an asset is sold. This is one of the reasons why Bogle thinks index funds are a better option. Since index funds are not actively managed, they don't buy or sell assets, which helps in taxes because nothing is continuously traded. This avoids triggering tax, which helps keep the investment undisturbed. Most people who buy indexes tend to hold them indefinitely, so if the individual sells their index at any point in their life, they would typically pay capital gains tax, and depending on the person's income, it's around 15%, which is lower than personal income tax. Capital gains taxes are triggered when an asset that has been held for over a year is sold. This is one of the reasons why many wealthy investors use debt to get around this tax. Now you might be thinking, all of these costs for mutual funds might be worth it if the fund provides great returns. Well, number 5. The odds of winning. The desired outcome when investing in actively managed mutual funds is that since they have professional investors managing these funds, they will provide an edge over the market and the higher returns will make up for the cost of running these funds. But after looking at historical data, the vast majority of mutual funds are unable to keep up with the market, especially in the long term. As a matter of fact, out of the 355 mutual funds that existed from 1970 to 2016, 281 of them, about 80%, no longer even exist. Not only that, but less than 10% of the mutual funds have beat the market by 1%. And only about 3% of all the mutual funds have clear above market returns over the long term. On the other hand, index funds don't go out of business because they do not attempt to beat the market. They instead bet on it. The question that you might be asking now is, if mutual funds have all the downsides compared to simple index funds, why do people invest in them? According to Bogle, the answer is quite simple. Marketing. Mutual fund brokers tend to present their numbers at face value. They might produce an 11% return in their portfolios, which sounds great, above market average, and then just a small 2% management fee and a couple of sales fees and taxes. What they don't tell you is how fees and charges affect your long-term value. That is up to you to figure out. So with a little common sense, Bogle concludes that index funds, especially for the average investor, is the simplest and the superior strategy. Now, if you want to go deeper into understanding value investing, check out this video on the book The Intelligent Investor, which according to Warren Buffett is the best book about investing ever written.